Okay, welcome everyone, and I'm going to also send our share here to this Q&A for the
Keelan, I thought that, okay.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so in case you didn't hear me say, we're exploring the sun, moon, and Venus as it relates to Venus. That's our sun, moon, and ascendant. That's the synthesis process we're doing now. Now, just to let you know, our next class will be looking at the outer planets and also doing a synthesis of everything. So this one was, what we've been doing is trying to synthesize the little pieces as we've been going along. And I know some of you get so excited that you do big synthesis, and that's okay. But just so you know that we're going to be doing more of that going forward. So I think what we're gonna do is start out with breakout group, and what you can do, and Tammy, you're gonna put those together, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So what you can do is introduce yourself, share any insights or ahas or any lingering confusion that you might have around how the moon and the ascendant and the sun impact your natal Venus in your group, and then if that brings anything up, we can talk about that when we come back. As a way to start out. And we do have some really great sharing from many of you that took the time to see if they could come up with a synthesis or answer the questions. So we appreciate that so much because it really helps enrich everyone's experience. When you do that, you enrich your own experience, and then everybody else gets to also experience that. So how cool is that?
Keelan, are you recording?
I am.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open rooms now.
Okay, cool. Let's go. All right, Martha, she, her. And Faye, oh my gosh, how fun is this? So Faye, I think you might need to unmute yourself. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Awesome. All right, so I have done this a lot, so I would love to hear from the two of you of how this has been and Martha, thank you for what you sent. That was awesome.
I am so, this is a really funny question. Is this the Venus signature class, or is this the this the Libra, the last gate of the, okay.
Oh, you are so not alone, Faye. I just want to tell you.
Holy cow. I just had quite a day. I'm going to sit back because I literally was like, oh wait, I think I've got a live call. So I'm literally so, yeah.
Right.
Anyhow, so I'm going to just sit for a moment.
Okay.
And listen.
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is we're looking at how the sun and the moon and the ascendant are connected to the Venus position.
Right.
Yeah. So I can share a little bit about mine. Martha can share a little bit about hers, and then maybe you'll feel inspired.
I think so. I think so. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Martha, do you want to start?
Well, I mean, yeah, my sun and Virgo, or my sun and Virgo are the same Virgo. Sun and Venus, now I've got it. Yeah. Oh, now I get the giggles. Yeah, so I'm Virgo sun and Venus, and Cancer moon, and Aquarius rising. So I shared in the email, I'm currently living in quarantine with my extended family. So I'm really having a chance to live my Cancer moon in a healthier way. There's lots of opportunities.
Some days might be better than others, maybe.
Yeah, but I am grateful to know that knowledge and know like what those patterns are when I slip into them, because it's so easy to sort of, respond from that old way. And so like the wonderful thing about being quarantined with my family is they are up I normally live in the city, and they are up north, and so I'm able to spend a ton of time outside. So I am able to like talk to Venus like almost every night in a way that I can't normally in the city. I mean, I do in the city, but not in the same way. And it's really, that's been really, really grounding for me. And yeah, the ascendant piece has been interesting because I'm just sort of, you know, it's been sort of the last 4 or 5 years that I've been feeling into what that Aquarius rising is all about for me. And with the Virgo, the piece that seems to resonate, that when I was doing that synthesis that really sort of resonated, was being whole unto myself. Like I really love that idea of that archetype of Virgo being whole unto herself. And then with the Aquarius rising, that freedom that comes from within. Like those two really resonated with me. So I'm still sort of massaging that and working on that, and what does that sort of mean, but
could be a lifelong process.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm inspired. I love the 5-pointed star over your shoulder, by the way.
Oh yeah,
I have one over my shoulder too, right?
That's the top of my Christmas tree.
Ah.
That like 3 or 4, I have a Yule like birch bark, because I love trees. I have a birch bark Christmas tree, and when I started doing all this Venus work, I stopped taking the star down.
Ah,
Just left it up.
of course, because you know we want to honor that.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm just going to share with you something that this was some years ago. I was reading a book. I think it was by Marion Zimmer Bradley called Hawk Mistress, and she was like a priestess type woman, right? And there was lots of crazy stuff going on in the land and wars and things. And she had this hawk, and she would send the hawk out to fly high above everything and see what was going on, and then come back, and they had this telepathic communication. And I'm like, oh, to me, that was a perfect example of a Virgo Aquarius, you know, getting the big picture, sending out the hawk to get the big picture and come back with the information, and then make the decisions about what to do and how to move forward.
That's so interesting, because blue jays have always spoken to me, and but the kids found one dead on the deck, and they did a ceremony. The kids did a ceremony and buried it, and they know that blue jay medicine has always been so fast. Like I've always been connected to it. And the next day I was on a hike with my 11-year-old niece, and there were 2 blue jays that just did this dance back and forth and back and forth, right? Like stopped us in our tracks. And so, yeah.
Right.
Wow.
I know it's not a hawk, which is a bigger picture, but
yeah, the thing about the hawk is that it could be trained and sent out. So
right.
if you think about Virgo would want to have something they could send out to get that big picture and bring it back, and then make decisions and operate from that awareness. So I was like, oh, this is such a great description of how Virgo and Aquarius might work together.
Yes, I love that. What did you say the name of the book was?
I think it's called Hawk Mistress, and I think it was written by Marion Zimmer Bradley.
Okay.
I might need to look that up for sure. But it was just such like a moment for me. And I don't have Virgo. I do have Aquarius on my chart, but I don't really have, I always say I'm honorary Virgo because I'm an evening star, and I have Vesta on my ascendant, and my Venus is in the 6th house, the Virgo house. So, you know, I guess I can claim some Virgo that way. But it was just, it felt to me like that was one of the ways, and there's many, but just to have a way to kind of tune into what that energy might be like, because you think about the earthy groundedness of Virgo connecting to the pattern and, you know, weaving the sacred ceremonies and all of those things, but also Aquarius, you know, coming from that point of having the bigger picture. And so sometimes Virgo can get stuck in the smaller place, and so Aquarius can help bring in the bigger picture, and when you're open to that, and if you had a hawk.
Yeah, well, I have seen lots of hawks on my walks, so now I'm going to pay more attention to them.
Beautiful, because they are messengers, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, you've inspired me to think about my Venus in Virgo. So I have Venus in Virgo.
Oh, you're Venus in Virgo too?
Natally, yes. But are we talking about our meta goddess and when it changed over? Right. So it did switch over to Capricorn and then Aquarius. So I have a Leo sun and a Gemini moon 1 degree from my ascendant. So I have a lot of Gemini, a lot of mutable energy. And the Virgo, the Venus in Virgo, I have definitely found that it can get very caught up in the details.
Mhm.
So I also have Aquarius on my midheaven and Chiron right up there. So there is this, I do feel like I have the ability to go out and see the big picture, but it is a practice of going out there for me because I have evening star. Most all of my planets are beneath the horizon with the exception of Saturn and Chiron. So there's this natural instinct to kind of hide or just, hang back. And everything about my life right now I feel is soon to be just really breaking open. So it's a balance for me. It's learning how to stay grounded, keep roots, and be thinking bigger picture. It's an exciting challenge. I'm about ready to launch a website that I've been spending just months and months working on. I'm starting to work with my hands more. I'm starting to do a lot of painting and collage work where I'm working quick, but literally working. So it's just been great. But anyhow, what you were saying about the Aquarius and the Virgo is very.
You can apply that to Gemini too. I mean, although Gemini is not as much about the big picture as it's about freedom.
Yes.
Right. And the freedom of mind and,
Yes.
creativity and all of that. But yeah, you could apply it to Gemini as well.
Yeah. And the freedom, I have Uranus conjunct my sun. Uranus and Mercury are a degree apart conjunct my sun. So it's whoa, a lot of central nervous stuff. I mean, I really need to slow down and ground. But
Right.
anyhow,
Right.
Looks like I'm
Beautiful.
sorry, I went over.
No, it's completely fine. We've got 15 seconds before we're going to get brought back to the main room. So thank you, Faye, for sharing that. And I'm glad you were able to
me too.
that and figure that out. Sometimes we just need a minute, right?
Right. What class am I in?
Oh, there you are, Kaylin. Okay, unmute.
Thank you.
Okay, great. I thought you must be in a really good, juicy conversation.
Right. Well, I just waited for it to send us back. So yeah, we were just wrapping up.
Yay.
So yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen again. And here we go. Oh wait, before I do that, actually maybe I'll unshare my screen and we'll see if there's anything that anybody wants to talk about before we move forward. Any questions, any ideas,
Sure.
any insights that want to be brought forth. And if not, then we'll go ahead, but And so if there's anything you want to say, you'll need to either raise your hand or unmute yourself because everybody's muted.
I think Lori, you want to unmute yourself? I'll unmute you. I got
Thank
you.
Hi.
Hi.
There was, this was a lot of material to cover this time and try to integrate, but one of the questions I had was related to, Kaylin, I don't remember what class it was you were talking about it, but you were talking about, well, it must have been the ascendant. So you said that the ascendant sign changes every 2 hours. And then you said something about every 4 minutes, but I didn't catch what you said. So can you just, talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, because there's 30 degrees in a sign. And so as things are rising and the way the earth is rotating, about every 4 minutes, it's changing a degree. So you can tell how far you're in. In other words, if you're 0 degrees, it just went into that ascendant. It's going to be there for another 2 hours ish.
Okay.
It's not exact. Some take longer to rise, some take shorter time to rise, but it's about it's an average of about 2 hours. So, so if you're 15 degrees, then it's already been an hour into that rising sign. It's going to probably be about another hour into the
Okay.
next rise before you get into the next rising sign. And what is interesting about that is for people who don't know their exact birth time, if you see that, it's like, well, you'll know if they have sort of a time, like, well, I was born around 10 a.m., right, or something.
Yeah.
And you see that it just went into a new sign, they might be the rising sign before or the one after, and then you just have it narrowed down to the questions you can ask to help determine that. If
Okay.
it's in the middle of the sign, then you're pretty of that rising sign, you're pretty safe because it's an hour before and after. So I'm 15 degrees Scorpio rising, so it's definitely Scorpio rising.
Yeah.
No problem with
Okay.
that. Yeah,
That's helpful.
Great question. Thank you.
All
I'm
right.
glad
Thank
asked that.
you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I have a quick question. I have a quick question, and this might not. I am curious about the connection with Venus currently. I don't even know if she's still out of bounds in Gemini, but with the nodes shifting into Gemini Sagittarius, maybe it's because I'm a double Gemini, but I mean, I'm just kind of like really want to know more about kind of what, I mean, and maybe you'll talk about this in other places, but anyhow, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, I'd love to listen. And maybe that's off topic.
It's been 56 years since we've had the node in Gemini with the Gemini metagoddess. And so, the nodes will return around, in about 56 years. And so it doesn't happen that often. In like a 104-year cycle, it may happen once or twice that you get the node and the metagoddess in the same sign. And it happens to be going into the sign just prior to this, before it happens. We will definitely be talking about this.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it's like really part of our new destiny, and Venus, the expression of the feminine aligning with the North Node. Whew, this is big.
Yeah, and I think it's also an interesting energy, right, Kaylin? And again, we will talk more about it, but it's a little bit of a riddle, because what we know about Venus morning star is that whatever that metagoddess is, when we're in the Venus morning star phase, we're in a phase of really facing into the shadow of that sign, among other things. We're meeting and greeting what's beneficial and useful and positive, not the right words, but what's generative and what's timely about those energies, but also we're facing into the shadow of that. And so I think it's kind of interesting that the North Node, the whole Venus cycle is going to be kind of highlighting. We have seen it really like focus in. It's kind of like encouraging us to really get clear on what the most beneficial, forward moving energies of Gemini are that we can collectively align with and move with, even during the morning star phase. That's interesting.
Oops. And why is it, whoops. Hang on, am I muted?
No, you're fine.
No.
Okay. And why is it considered the rainbow? The rainbow.
So Gemini is the messenger. She, so in service to spirit, her way of being in service to spirit is to be a messenger to expand consciousness and awareness and to remind ourselves not to be so serious and so on. And because Gemini is connected to the planet Mercury, and Hermes in the Greek mythology was a messenger, and so was Iris, the rainbow goddess. So the Iris, the rainbow goddess, and there's a lot of cultures that have rainbow goddesses, but one of the ways we can know that Gemini is definitely a rainbow goddess, she rides the rainbow. She's from any realm or dimension. She doesn't necessarily come from any one place. She's a free electron. She can be anywhere. And one of her vehicles is the rainbow. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. And Tammy may have some more to say about that.
No, I love everything you're saying. And I think, Kaylin and I have had some great conversations about this, and Kaylin has done a lot of work with rainbows too. And I just saw one the other day, actually, like 2 days ago. Maybe some of you did too. But I think also one of the archetypes you could say that's connected to Gemini is changing woman. And she's a native figure in native culture, but also she can be seen as that aspect of the feminine that is shapeshifter, that is the magical feminine. And, you know, rainbows have such a long lineage of a connection to that magical kind of realm. And I'll just say too, I was doing a reading for a friend named Gemini, a woman, yesterday, and it was so interesting because I know for many of you as healers, you probably do this too, but I've been when I open readings, I kind of tune into what I see and feel. I do an invocation, and this time, for the first time ever, I was literally, Kaylin, I was like feeling her rainbow body and our rainbow bodies, and just seeing this pulsing of all these different colors kind of coming through and coming alive and awake. It was fascinating. It's going to be fun to work with this energy. And Kaylin brought in the idea of working with the rainbow body with this, and I think it feels very Geminian to me. I agree very much.
And literally, I mean, the Tibetans, the Buddhists, that's the whole thing, is to get into the rainbow body, light body. So we'll be doing a lot of that. Yeah, working with that. So anybody else?
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
In the chat room that I was in, I commented about this. When Tammy, I don't remember what class it was in this segment, but when Tammy did the meditation where we got up and moved and kind of put on our Venus sign, and then we infused it with the sun energy, the sun sign, that was the bomb. Like for me, trying to mentally put, you know, the pieces together and the energies and the overtone, it was hard to kind of understand how that really translates. But to get up and move with it was great. That really resonated for me. Like I felt like I could just put on my Scorpio sun, and now I got it. Like now I get how it energizes my, you know, Gemini overtone and my Venus and Libra. It was great. It was great exercise. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Awesome. We do try to do the embodied part. It does feel important with this for sure. I remember, I remember when we did that, it did feel like we talked about this. It was just like, there's so much. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I think that is really important with all these syntheses. Gemini moon as I am, and so a lot of us have this Gemini energy to drop into the body from the mind to be able to really get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Good.
Yeah, thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
We love that.
Kaylin and Tammy, hi.
Hi, Sarah.
I was listening to a recording and I don't remember hearing this the first time around, but it was about signs that were next to each other. And you had a term for those. And I don't remember now what it was, but what the comment was that a more synthesis was needed in that case. And that really, really resonated big time. Because I have a couple of juxtapositions like that, but it was, I don't know, it was just really cool. So don't remember that one at all. But maybe you could talk a little bit more about that during the course of this time.
Yeah, you know, the signs that are next to each other, they don't see each other. So like if you're looking straight ahead and you put your hands here, you might have a sense, or somebody sitting next to you, you might have a sense of them sitting next to you. You might even not sort of out of the corner of your eye, if you looked out of the corner, you could maybe even kind of see like there's something there, but you can't really see it clearly. And that's the challenge of the signs that are next to each other. They don't see each other, you know, I mean, unless they turn and look, but, you know, but if we're thinking about the circle, it's like, you know, and we have a certain perspective that they don't see each other. And even if they did see each other, they might be like, yeah, I don't really get you.
Yeah, they might be in kind of a, yeah.
Right, we're going to have probably a lot of deep conversations to try to figure this out, right?
Okay.
So, and they're called inconjunct.
Inconjunct, okay.
So, and there's also an inconjunct that's like 150 degrees across the circle. So if you're looking straight ahead and you see, you know, and you put your hands at like 150 degrees, you also get that sense there's something there, but you don't see it clearly if you're looking straight ahead. So it's like that from a visual perspective, you know, that inconjunct energy and so the alchemy that's needed to really bring them together, or to get them to talk to each other and understand each other and work together, It's a little bit more than some signs might be.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Anything to add, Tammy?
Oh, I don't, I remember when I first learned that too, how incredibly useful it was. I speak about it in charts all the time. I'm sure you do too, Kaylin. And I love how you did it with your hands right then, because when I talk about it, it's the way that you and Daniel originally taught us, I think, like you did, but also just thinking about it like we're in a circle. If you're sitting in a circle, just think about where all those other signs are and what that relationship looks and feels like. And that disconnect, there's a disconnect, you don't see it. Compared to the opposition, if you're in an opposition, I found that very useful too, that you're looking directly at that person. And that is a very powerful and potent relationship versus the square, so I find that to be incredibly helpful. Again, it's an embodied way to look at it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I have a question sort of now on that, because that was a question that I emailed to you, Kaylin, because I have a Taurus Sun, Taurus Venus, Gemini Moon, Gemini Metagoddess, Gemini North Node, and I'm like, I just don't get it. I don't get, like the Gemini especially, I don't get it. And now I see why. So are we going deeper into this and how to get to
Yeah, so when we get to your slide, we could talk a little bit more about that, but because there's other reasons why you don't get it. That will also
I feel
become
so much better about myself as a person now.
more revealed as we go along. There can be the literal, if they sit right next to each other, I can't see you, I don't get you. But they can also be other factors that come in that are like, wow, this is really cloudy and confusing. And you have that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Fabulous. Okay, thank you.
How much of astrology, it's so funny, how much of astrology is like, it's okay to be me. It's okay to be quirky. It's okay to not get it. It's okay to like be human.
One of the reasons we love it so much. Yeah. So is there anybody else has any questions, comments, anything before we dive into what people shared? Go deeper into the synthesis. All right. You can always chat or ask a question or whatever. Okay.
Also, I want to say really quick, Kaylin, it's really clear in this group that this group, you all are the deep, devoted scholars, like, because this is deep work. And to have gone through all of it and work with all of it, especially in a time where there's just so much flying back and forth, and so much, it's just, this is really deep work that you're doing. So just really honoring that.
Yeah. So this was on the class Facebook page, and I just brought it in here because, and I did a little answer in the blue, but I just wanted to say that we definitely have an idea, because this does keep coming up, to do some advanced classes on some things that we didn't cover in the original series. If you're interested on progressions, and when, like if by progression your Venus goes retrograde or goes direct, or, you're born with Venus retrograde, when did it go direct, and you want to know, or what gate has it moved to now, all of those different factors, that could be one class in and of itself. And then there's a whole lot of other things that we're contemplating. So we're not going to go into this now because that's not what we're focused on here, and it would, yeah, but just wanted to say that. So let us know if you're interested. And then this is just all the questions that were on the class page, all in one place, so that if you haven't had a chance to answer them and you want to look at them and maybe journal around them and so on, feel free to do that, because they can help you go deeper. That's the whole point of these questions, is to help you go deeper. And especially for anyone who hasn't even seen all of the, well, not seen, I think we did these as audio. Actually, we did them as Zoom, but we only posted audio for some reason, and the videos are gone. We can't find them. So anyway, but you see you can see the PDFs and so on with that, and take notes and then to see how you can answer these questions for yourself if you haven't had a chance to do that. So this is me, my chart. So I have Venus in Aries, Sun in Pisces, Moon in Sagittarius and Scorpio rising. And I wrote a quick little synthesis that I sent out in an email. And literally, you do not need to write something super long unless you want to. But, you know, sometimes just to even try to sum it up and, you know, like a couple of paragraphs, or actually, well, I like short paragraphs, so it's not too long of a writing. I shared this. And so I think Tammy wants to maybe share a little piece about hers before we go forward.
Oh, Kaylin, I mean, I even think you could read yours or speak to it a little bit too, though, just, you know, because it brings it alive.
All right.
It's short enough.
Right, it is. It is. Okay. So I have a fiery Sagittarius moon, and that delights my Venus in Aries, also fiery, because they love to try new things, go on adventures, and be active with a purpose. Right? So one, maybe the activity is about the spiritual quest. The other might be just to climb the mountain because it's there, because Aries will do that. However, having come from a galaxy far, far away, exploring the realms of expanded truth, consciousness, and awareness, and having a Pisces sun and Scorpio rising, meaning entrance into the feeling realm, not only discovering my own feelings, Scorpio, but also first unknowingly empathing the feelings of others, Pisces, what I did when I was a child. It has been far from easy or fun in the quick burning assimilation style fire would prefer. So it's like, oh, slow me down. Oh, or put my fire out with all that water. So frustrating. So the Pisces sun, and I also have Neptune opposite my Venus, and of course that'll be in the next class that we talk about, how the outer planets affect our Venus signature. Definitely watered down that fire early, and in my younger years, Venus and Aries only showed up to protect others, not myself. I would protect my sister, do not mess with her. But if people were messing with me, I wouldn't protect myself. I do appreciate the essence of caring, kindness, and compassion that this Pisces fuel has given me. And literally, I have had astrologers say to me, I don't get your Scorpio Aries. And I'm like, yeah, because I have a Pisces sun and Neptune opposite my Venus. So it's like a kinder, gentler version of Aries. And then having a noble cause has really helped me to, and that helps others know their purpose, expands consciousness, and helps guide this transitional time. So that is the most alive Aries type action serving Scorpio rising that I have found in this life. So that's my summary of how.
Thank you, Kaylin.
Together.
I really think too that the Aries, part of the reason it doesn't express in the way people are accustomed to is because you really are, and the Scorpio, the way those two focus in your chart, maybe it feels like, to me at least, is that they're so on fire and active and activated that you don't see the shadow side as much because they're being used.
Right.
You're using that fuel rather than being kind of in the energy of it, but not fully. I just see that as you're speaking, because that really helps me actually think about mine. Because I mean, I've been getting that so much lately, that even in this great pause that we're in, that a lot of what many of us are actually needing, or if we get stuck in paralysis or, you know, whatever the stuck energies are, that really the breakthrough often is just to, as much as you can, to fully bring alive and activate what you're here to do, and just be so focused on that and just single-minded almost on that can help you bust through it. That's very Aries. So for mine, you know, my moon is in Gemini. My sun is at 1 degree Sagittarius. My Venus is 1 degree Sagittarius. My sun is 28 degrees Sagittarius. And then my ascendant is Aries. And as I was describing to the women who were in the little breakout with me, the way I've come to look at that for myself is that when I'm really lit up, when I'm really coming alive, and when I'm embodying that goddess in the way that Lori talked about, that we in that embodiment exercise that we brought alive, it's that I'm alive in that playful energy of Gemini, and I'm really, you know, I'm in touch with that magical child that has a lot of joy and a light and a lightness in me. And then but I rise up in rather than going into this real scattered all over the place energy, I am actually rising up in a sense into living more of what my personal truth is. So for example, I'm in a process right now of finally writing down all of the deep learnings that I've been experiencing over the last 4 years of this kind of shamanic boot camp. And I'm writing, using my mind, my Gemini writing to try to synthesize and organize, kind of like what Kaylin's doing here, what we're doing there, to understand what is my truth from these experiences, bringing all this information and all these stories that could be just in my head into more of an understanding of the, and when it's Sagittarius and it's fire, it's got to go more into that intuitive realm, which from my perspective is beginning to be more embodied anyway. So it's my personal experience of truth. What's true for me, derived from my own personal experience and my own personal story. And then that rises up into Aries, where I take action and I'm acting from the truth that I've learned from my own life experience and my own story. But the way I feel my energy, this is pretty clear, is it's like going from horizontal Gemini into this more focused, more spiritually focused and a little bit more earnest, in a sense, Sagittarius, and then really into that fine point of Aries. So that's how I feel mine to be synthesized.
Beautiful. So hopefully this gives you a sense, and there's some other examples we'll see as we go along too, about just synthesizing this piece, right? So you don't have to try to figure it all out, but just looking at the old goddess, the moon position, and who was she and how is she showing up? And sometimes she can be running the show. So she needs to maybe take a back seat for a little while and let the Venus position step in a little bit more. And then the sun, what's the fuel? What's the energy? What's the style? So for me, being Venus in Aries with the sun in Pisces, my style is going to be kinder, more compassionate and empathic than if I was Venus in Aries with an Aries sun. And I have known some of those people, and they can be pretty intense. And they don't even know they're doing it. They don't even have any awareness of that. Just, it's just they're burning away, whatever it is. And then how does that serve the mystery school of the current life intent? So, so just looking at that piece is so powerful, as you can see. What we've done here. At least I know that's been really helpful for me, and hopefully it'll be helpful for the rest of you. So Jennifer lives in South Africa, and so she's in a way different time zone. She can't be with us during this time, but she did do a great synthesis. So here's her Capricorn moon, here's all her Cancer, and she is Aquarius rising. So she's done this class with us before, but she's really engaging it again, and I think getting a deeper sense of what this all means for her. Because sometimes the first pass through, you only just get some of it. And so I know for every time we've done this, I get more. I imagine you do too, Tammy. and my own understanding of myself, much less how this all works, right? So, that Jennifer wrote a lot. We don't have time to really go into everything that everybody wrote when they wrote a lot, but she did do a synthesis of her deeply loving Cancer that has softened the dominant Capricorn, and conversely, Capricorn has given a healthy structure to the outpouring of love of her Cancer Venus. And it's clear that there has been congruence between them. And of course, they do sit opposite each other on the wheel, so they see each other very well. And so we could imagine that if they're not in opposition, like opposing each other, but they're working together, it's a resonance, like they're working on the same axis of how to create healthy, safe structures. For Cancer is going to look at family, and Capricorn is going to look at community. So, and those two things aren't necessarily that different. So her old goddess and her present goddess, Venus, have worked well together. In addition, the energetic thrust of her Sun in Cancer has produced a very happy, lively, and fortunate lifestyle. And her own children and other people's have been a dominant focus in her life, so that she was able to see how that comes together. Was there anything else we wanted to say about that, Tammy? Do you remember?
I think you really captured it. I mean, I love her depth of understanding of it. And and I love, that she's so deeply also following her Venus returns and how those are affecting her life. And
right.
Yeah,
so she was also looking at the dynamics of Cancer and Aquarius, and to say the least, she said disjunct or I don't know if she meant disconjunct.
In conjunct, maybe?
In conjunct, maybe she meant that.
Well,
Yeah.
inconjunct and disjunct have very similar energies. It
They
makes
do.
sense.
Anyway, they're not the same.
Yeah.
they're
not.
on that 150. They're like they don't necessarily see each other. So she's really right about that. So my once physically close family has been spread across the world, and with financial restrictions, physical connection has become impossible. So she's grateful for FaceTime and video, very Aquarius, by the way, that technology, right? So she can connect across the airwaves. And that has been a small compensation for the lack of physical togetherness. Traditionally, the archetype of Aquarius is said to be non-personal, detached, operating outside the physical and emotional realm. However, I know I am and always have been a free electron. And so she's challenged to create a meaningful way of loving from a distance. And she's had to create a different role for her Venus at this stage in her life. And her new Venus is learning to drop the expectations of more traditional grandparenting and aging and relate lovingly and deeply to her grandchildren, especially her 4-year-old grandchild, despite the abstract mechanisms. So I thought that was an interesting, that might not be something I would have thought of to look at from that perspective. So that's very much an Aquarian viewpoint of how she's putting together the Cancer, her emerging goddess, and her fuel. The sun is also in Cancer, and then with that Aquarius aspect. So.
Yeah, and I feel you can really feel her Cancer and her Capricorn come through, all of it. You can feel all of it come through in the way that she's describing what she cares about and how she's evolving.
Right. And the other thing is, on these longer ones where we're just going to kind of tune into a shorter piece around them, please go back and read them, because we will post the PDF and you can read what everybody wrote, because it'll help you to deepen your own understanding and also see different possibilities of how these things manifest. Because they're not going to manifest the same way for everyone. Even if you had, say, an identical situation, your way of manifesting might be different than somebody else's way of manifesting. So it's helpful to see and to have those perspectives. So Estella she's got a Gemini moon. She's got Venus and Jupiter in Libra. She's got a Leo sun, and she's Cancer rising. So she literally went through and answered all the questions. So there's a few slides here, but one of the questions was, do you feel like you're addicted to your old goddess, or is she supporting you in learning more about your emerging feminine identity? Which is a really good question, especially for those who have, say, a Cancer moon or a Capricorn moon, or maybe even a Libra moon. I think the Gemini moon is probably less likely to be addicted to their moon. Maybe Tammy can speak to that.
Yeah. Wait, you mean if you're coming from a Gemini moon and you're moving towards the other?
Right.
I don't know. I think Gemini is pretty addictive. I think, and Estella, of course, I love how Estella says this. Estella says it in the way that those different parts have been present at different points in her life with different intensity and have shown me their shadow side, and she's grateful. That's what I really love about this sharing. It's just like, yeah, that's so beautiful, in that way of integration and just a gracefulness of honoring that there's this kind of flow of really being in more intimate relationship with the different aspects of ourselves. And I can see that with a lot of us, that there's different phases where certain ones come forward based on our cycles and, also just the rhythms of our lives.
Right, and the thing to remember is the moon is what we've already mastered or have a skill set in. So it can, and depending on whether it's supported by the culture or not, sometimes it can be easy to fall back into that. And as a Sagittarius moon, I can say that I definitely have always been on a spiritual path. And I was born into a family where I was able to do that. So I wasn't prevented from doing that. But it's not something that's really supported by the culture.
Right.
Whereas if I had and I see this with my Cancer moon friends all the time, Cancer moon friends, where they get so locked into being the responsible one, being the one who gets things done, being the one everybody looks to figure out, help them to be the giver, to be the one that takes care of everything. And sometimes it takes a major crisis for them to let go of doing that. And
Yeah.
so that it's like, it's life or death. Like if you don't stop doing this, you're going to die. I've
Yeah.
seen that very
Yeah.
often. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such Cancer moon, and I think Libra moon for women and Cancer moon for women, because those two signs are so profoundly emphasized and in some ways rewarded in the culture.
As is Capricorn moon, very much.
As is Capricorn moon for men and women both, because that's, we want someone to take care of everything for us. But I think that actually with something like the Gemini moon, it's different for every person, but it can be that eventually 3D reality helps you have to move into new territory. It's just kind of one way or another, you're going to have to get there.
To survive in this reality. Whereas
Yeah.
usually Cancer and Capricorn, they got that part down really well.
Yeah,
Whereas
they've got that down.
like, oh, or Sagittarius even. It's like, what?
Well, yeah, but I think too, I think you can even, like I have IC and South Node in Cancer, and I think that Cancer comes through more strongly for me than you would think, because again, I came from a traditional family where the Cancer energy was what was emphasized. That was really the only role for the feminine. So even though my life path doesn't look very Cancerian, the energy that I would tend to often go back to that's more regressive is Cancerian.
Interesting.
That's
Yeah.
how these archetypes show up.
Right. That's not a one size fits all.
No.
Anyway, so Stella was also saying that, through her relationships, she was really trying to please the other, and so not including herself in that process. And she was either with partners that tried to police her or needed her. That's a really common mistake when you're first learning Libra.
Yeah.
Something like that. So you could say, honest mistakes. The challenges of a new mystery school, and you're just learning, you're just figuring it out, and so on. So, anyway.
Yeah, I can so relate to what Estela is saying as Gemini moon too. Like, and it's different for me because I have the Aries ascendant, but the Aries and Libra have in common that they're looking to actually have like a really sustained and a healthy, dynamic, grounded partnership. And it is true with Gemini moon that it can be easy to go into being what that other person wants and
Right.
not wanting to make waves. And that can be a strong energy.
Right. And one of the things that Estelle's bringing up here is, because we're looking at the modalities, is one of the things we looked at in this class is like, so you may have the moon and Venus in the same element, like fire or air. In her situation, it's air, but they'll be in different modality. And so Gemini's in service to spirit, free electron, all of that. But Libra is in service to the relationship, in service to others through relating. And so it's a different focus for that air energy. And really, when we talk about the elements, one of the things we talk about is, of the three elements, there's always one that is not like the others. So for example, Pisces and Cancer, we can totally see their similarities. There's differences, but we can see their similarities. Scorpio, not like the others. and Gemini and Aquarius, very similar. A Libra, not like the others. So, that it's definitely it's a shift, definitely a shift to something different. So, she has a Leo sun. She said this fire sign has added intuition, generosity, creativeness, and passion, and overall being more self-aware and comfortable in her own skin. She said she's always wanted to be second, to not be seen, to not be noticed, and she's learned now to be her radiant self. So I guess it has added authenticity and strength to my actions.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I think we'll move on, because we've only got so much time here, to Rebecca, who also answered all the questions. I love it when people answer the questions. So we won't have time to go through all of them, but, and she definitely has a lot of more details in here than just looking at the moon, the sun, the Venus, and the rising sign. She brought in some other factors. But she, I love that she, it's like, are you addicted to operating more from your old goddess, or is she supporting you and learning more about your feminine, emerging feminine identity? She said both. I appreciate that. Now, what's interesting about the Libra moon and Capricorn Venus is they are both householder signs. Libra is in service to the relationship, and Capricorn is in service to the community. So, you know, they're both in that way in serving something else, not self, and not spirit. It's serving it's kind of more of a middle world. You know. Let's see. So I highly recommend you come and read all this. It's really brilliant what she's put together. She says she knows that her Libra moon has served her well with her wisdom teachings, and that Capricorn, I have important Capricorn work to do, and I'm developing the skills to do that. On that past, I stand with gratitude. So my old goddess supports my connection to my emerging goddess self. As I complete this Libra Venus journey, I take with me evolving knowledge of the Capricorn goddess role and the wonderful support of the Gemini meta goddess. And because she's going into her Venus return, I believe. She's going into her Venus return. And basically she's working to restore the land. She's inherited this land, ancestral land, and she's working to restore it. So very much a Capricorn earth thing to do. And to develop the relationship to the land and all of that. So she talks a lot about that. It's really good stuff. So her sun is in Scorpio, and she identifies with the sun side mode of astrology most of her life. She said, I was the stinging, shocking, and sexual Scorpio archetype. I'm Scorpio, dark, secretive, and seductive, I thought, and that gave me confidence. But that's only meant to be the fuel, not the whole expression, right? So when she discovered it as the fuel, not the archetype, that was a big thing for her. And that, you know, that the actual feminine archetype is her Capricorn Venus. So, anyway, let's see. Anything else? There's a lot of slides here for her. So I think we'll move on.
But it's so rich, and it just, you know, I read it, and it's like always, I think if we're on Facebook and we see everything that Rebecca posts, it's like, it's so rich and deep that it just really reminds us that we get so much out of it when we go as deeply into it. I mean, you can just see how deeply how much you're savoring in this process, and how much is constellating inside of you as you do it.
So she summed it up by saying the sun and ascendant both bring life and breath to the emerging Venus and Capricorn. I said above how much I enjoy my ascendant and all the exploration that is my birthright, and her Leo job, or Leo North Node, and her Gemini meta goddess to this renewal phase. So she was bringing in some of the previous things, as well as some things we haven't talked about yet. But I really like this. Dear Diary, I learned a lot. I'm doing well and started a new Venus cycle. I'm hopeful. Starting a new Venus cycle. I'm hopeful. Thanks for listening to me all these years.
That's great.
It's awesome. So Martha, MJ, which I don't know what she prefers.
Martha.
Martha. Okay.
I think Martha, you'll have to tell us if you prefer MJ.
Yeah, Martha's good. MJ's
okay, good.
On social media. That's it.
Okay.
So Martha, do you want to share with us what you wrote here? You could just read it. You don't have to like make it up new.
All right, I'll practice using my voice.
Yay!
I am an alchemical priestess who is whole unto myself, dedicated to sacred service, innovation, and the freedom that comes from within. I have set an intention to embody my Aquarius rising energy while staying grounded in my earthy Virgo, Venus, and Sun energy. I'm currently living in quarantine with my family right now. My sister, brother-in-law, parents, nieces, and nephews, so there's 10 of us. So I've had lots of opportunity to live from a healthy expression of my Cancer moon, and it's messy, and I'm very grateful to have this knowledge. Talking about addictive patterns of Cancer moon, I was the one who ended up with the tumor in my cervix. That was the lesson that I needed to learn. So it's easy for me to get stuck into old shadow ways of mothering and doing family. So I've had lots of opportunity to step out and embody my Virgo Venus. I've been feeling the tension of the old and new energies. There's so much learning when I'm feeling it all. And I've really been loving taking the kids under the night sky, allowing them to soak in the magic of the sky has been really a highlight. And I did take a video of us singing to the moon and Venus, but I didn't attach it.
But you can post it on Facebook.
I could. It's been good fun.
That would be fun. And I
Yeah.
love that you're doing that, because I used to drag my kids out and say, look, moon, Venus, what? And they'd be like, oh, God, there she goes again. But now they love it, because now they can tell people, and people are like, whoa, really? How do you know that?
The 18-month-old is like, Auntie, moon, Auntie, moon, Auntie, moon.
Aw.
It's fun.
Oh, that's so good. So anything you want to add to that, Martha, before we move on?
No, but I did like the conversation that we had in our breakout room about the hawk and the ascendant, like with the Aquarius piece and the hawk going out to circle. And I'm going to tap into that energy.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
So just to say that because she has Aquarius rising and the Sun and Venus in Virgo, you can listen to the video. I'll just briefly say here, there's a book of a woman who was a priestess, and she had a hawk, and she would send it out to see where the armies were, so she would know how to make her. So it's like it was getting the bigger vision, the bigger picture, and bringing it back to her. They had telepathic communication. So when I read that, this was years ago, back in the 90s, I was like, huh, that's Aquarius and Virgo working together.
Mm.
There's more that we shared about that in the breakout session. So it's only recording. Anyway. All right, so Susan, I don't know if you want to jump in and share here or no.
Yeah, well, sure. Like I already started. I mean, I've already learned so much. It's so exciting because, like, you know, I'm looking at those questions. I'm like, I don't know how to answer these questions. I can't really tell you because I'm like two different people. Now I understand why I'm like two different people, because I can totally see my Taurus and I can totally see my Gemini. And I guess it would be like, probably like Tammy said, I'm more, I think, especially as I've gotten older, I'm much more addicted to the Gemini aspect of things. But I was telling Lori in our breakout room that I like the whole thing of playing is a concept that I've struggled with until now. I'm working on that more and maybe learning new ways about playing and all that stuff. But yeah, so I'm just a really late bloomer, and this apparently corresponds with my astrology, so that's good. I'm like, oh, I got a great 20 years, 30 years left, I hope. So
So you get to bloom for the next 20, 30 years, right?
yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I learned. So yeah.
Yeah, so
And
you
Susan,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, just to say, I mean, I realize I think I'm a little hard sometimes on Gemini moons and being addicted, because the reality is, especially for you too, that your Jupiter and North Node are in Gemini, so it is beneficial for you to activate that Gemini energy. So, and you know, our universe needs more of that. So it could be that it's actually progressive for you to drop into more of your Gemini.
I think it is progressive because there's some, I'm having a lunar return or nodal return. I can't remember what it is.
Nodal return.
Yeah, nodal return. So there's a lot going on. I found this stuff just in time, as usual. This is how my life always goes. It's always just at the last second that everything comes together, literally. So yeah, it's pretty funny.
So you had a question around resistance, you know, being the free electron of Gemini doesn't have to, and so what would, you know, what is that? Like, why would one be resistant? And so, so there, you know, when you've got archetypes that are not quite understanding each other, it's like you can get resistance from either side or both sides at the same time, which is an interesting challenge to integrate, right? So if that free electron energy of Gemini doesn't want to have to slow down for earthy Taurus to figure it out, it might resist until it gets a new perspective around taking time to savor pleasure, beauty, intimacy, you know, life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. This is like such an aha for me that it's just great because, you know, I was saying it really fascinates me but I have all this Gemini, the Gemini Meta Goddess, the Jupiter, the North Node, and it doesn't support you know, like I was saying, it just doesn't, I just didn't understand. There's no challenge points. Well, but this is a challenge point. This, you know, to
Right.
have that those blinders, what a huge, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't get much more challenging than that. You can't see each other. No wonder you're crazy.
So, and just briefly, we'll mention this now because this will be a big part of the next class, but you do have Neptune opposite your Sun and Venus. And
I know.
that definitely fogs out. It's like, really, what the hell is Taurus? You know, I have no idea. And it would take a while to really figure that out. So it's
This
not
makes me
right.
laugh. I just need to drink or something.
Right. So, and you also have Chiron square your moon. So, you know, there's more to explore around that as well, because it, you know, there can be some wounding in connection to the moon piece. And, you know, so it's like, really don't know what the Venus expression is early in life, because it's, you know, whatever the culture says, and you're more empathic and in tune to what other people maybe want for you than what you want for you, because you don't know. And then whatever the wounding is to the Gemini moon. And so, yeah, there's a lot. And I think when we get to the planets, about the planets, outer planets as teachers and guides and initiators, this will bring it all home for you.
I would also like to say that I love the bit about the Gemini being the messenger, like to expand consciousness, because that is so in tune with my work that I'm doing now late in life. So I found that really interesting. So the more I'm getting the Gemini more and more and more, and seeing how much that really has been a part of my life, but I've never really, for whatever reason, like I said before, I just can't see Gemini all that clearly. It's really interesting. Now I'm starting. So thank you.
Yay!
Awesome.
Okay, now we have Amuna. I think Amuna's with us. If you want to talk to us, Amuna, we'd love to have you do that.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. So, Tammy, I totally resonated with what you said earlier, that this is a time to just completely be focused. And that's been what's been going on for me, which I started hunkering down on really hunkering down on the 28th of February, before people were talking about the shelter in place, and said, I'm just going to give myself March to start working on my next novel. I had all these other things I was supposed to do, and I just said, you know what? And I think I told you all too, I just am not taking the class further right now. Here, the Venus class, because I needed to focus on this. So then I just, when I got Kaylin's email with her little blurb that she had written, I just wrote this. So I think, just read it. It's not that long, I think, comparatively,
Yeah.
but it doesn't talk about the Venus as much. It just put it all like kind of together. Should I do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I have Venus and ascendant in Pisces and moon in Leo, and then sun and then some in Aquarius. So until I was found by shamanic astrology, my strong Aquarius, which is Saturn, Mercury, Mars, South Node, Jupiter, and Sun, only partially made sense to me. Sure, I've always been a free spirit with a propensity to think too much and too fast, along with the tendency toward dancing to my own drum, when not looking for an external framework to give me a sense of security, which landed me in dogmatic circles a couple of times, but that never lasted. Yet I never felt detached and carried the world's suffering on very young shoulders already, trying to find ways to bring love and compassion where it was needed, often at my own expense. I became a pretty good nurse and a raving codependent, which makes total sense with both Venus and AC, my ascendant on the same degree in Pisces and Chiron only 2 degrees away. Plus Pluto closely across from this feeling deeply threesome. And then that Leo moon. Where is it? There. I felt I had pop star potential, but nobody else seemed to agree. So before long, I greatly supported by Saturn across from my Leo moon, insecurities about my outgoing nature and not good enough talent flourished for a long time. until I didn't give a hoot and started writing novels anyway. Thankfully, my sense of adventurousness and willingness to delve even into deep, dark waters, supported by a Sag midheaven, Scorpio, Neptune, and Uranus exactly across from my Aquarian sun, were always stronger than my insecurities. So here I am, grateful to be creatively in service to spirit while discovering what it means to be this particular human being, wildly writing my third novel while still working as a hospice nurse, and soon to welcome my second Saturn return along with Jupiter. Love and blessings to all.
Well done, Amuna.
Yeah, awesome.
And
So
you
I-
know that you had said you were going to step back, and that I love this
Yeah.
because, you know, and it didn't really take that long to write this, I'm sure. 'Cause
No, this, yeah, it was just wonderful you inspired it. So it was great. And I mean, you can imagine that I am pretty psyched about this Saturn return. I mean, I hear Saturn and Aquarius now everywhere. And this is going to go, like, you know, when you look at my chart, right? I mean, it's going to keep going and going and going. And then it goes on into my Pisces stuff too. So it's, hopefully this will be after 20 years of starting to really follow through on my creativity. I'm thinking, you know, with the nodes going into my Sag MC too, right? Is that, I mean, it should be, I should find an agent next year and get a publisher and all of that, don't you think?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, keep us posted.
Thank you, yeah.
What's your meta goddess, Amuna, again?
Aries, actually, when I was
Okay.
born, it was a, yes.
Awesome.
Okay, so this is from Louise, who just actually joined the group about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something like that. She lives in the UK, and she has Moon in Capricorn, Venus and Sun in Sagittarius, and I forgot to write down, but I think she's Aquarius rising. Let me just double check that here. So, hang on just a second. Oh, I'm sorry, Scorpio rising. Anyway, I forgot to put that in. Or she didn't put that in and I didn't see it. I didn't notice it. Anyway, so she definitely resonates with her Capricorn moon. And this has been playing out through her whole life. And she's been trying to please parents and other people and not really doing what she wanted to do as much, but always on a spiritual path. And she's also learning not to be an overgiver. So this was really great because as she was writing this, she had been worrying within herself about a client that she does healing work. She knew she needed to cancel because she was exhausted. And luckily, she had gotten to the point where she was like, okay, I'm going to cancel this. And then the client canceled before she did. So like the universe doing some confirmation with that. So yeah. So she feels like her Venus in Sagittarius has definitely been overshadowed by her Capricorn moon. And she hasn't really valued her own accomplishments and never really taken praise from others easily or with comfort. Very Capricorn moon. It's like they crave it, but they don't know how to accept it. Sometimes. Or it's never enough. Like, or they get it, but they still don't feel like they're still good enough or whatever that might be. So she's never felt comfortable in being, in a feminine skin, denying her femininity, following a very masculine path, trying to be the boy my parents wanted. Boy, can I relate to that. And and hating her womanhood at times. And so she's been in a process of reclaiming that part of herself. And if you didn't, I don't know if you got to see it or not, but I was part of a summit that was called the Great Womb Awakening. And that's how she got connected into this work, because I did something about the cosmic womb. And she's like, oh, this is what I need. So she's really focused on that. She really has to do it. So she really feels like she's suppressed and repressed her true self her whole life, and knows that her path is to reclaim and re-energize a healthy expression of her feminine, authentic, and divine self. And she's found that she's now being drawn to do womb work, hence why she did that summit, and healing her own womb in connection with her divine feminine. And the Venus within me, love that so much, So this is one of the reasons that she's taking the courses, and the upcoming Venus Morningstar class she's also taking. She's really excited about that. So she can see the negative attributes of both the earth and fire of her moon and Venus. And, you know, this is one of the things I like to say about fire can scorch earth, but earth can put out fire. So it depends on which one is strongest in the moment, but they can also work together to fuel, to light up, to, you know, they can work together. So that's ideally what we're going for. So one's not too dominant and the other's not. So she said, with a deep connection to the need to control everything and not wanting to take risks, but also allowing myself to get burnt out, and at times acting rashly and spontaneously as if trying to escape a box. So she's aware of her shift from householder to in service to spirit. Her soul work, the work she has been doing the past 5 years, is all around serving spirit and following spirit's guidance. And she literally has done a summit a couple of years ago. It's called From the Mundane to the Magical, or something like that. And she's going to be doing another one by the end of this year, or in October. So we'll stay tuned for that. So her work being the healer and the divine messenger, she's, you know, the work that she had to stop doing was to stop editing herself, and her channeling, or being afraid to share it globally. So that's a piece she's still working on. Her fear is that my service work takes me away from the comfort of my home and all that I know. So there is that Capricorn, like I really kind of like certain earthy comforts, to not be pushed and stretched into new territory. But she definitely resonates with Earth Capricorn Elder, and she's felt like an old soul her whole life. She's known things a person her age shouldn't know from this lifetime alone. She's felt the burden of wisdom that she holds deeply, and she's always had a deep quest for truth and authenticity, integrity, and freedom. That's the Sagittarius, having been paramount and part of her core yearning her whole life. So as an eternal student on the pedestals above me, I can see all the challenges of both signs within me, but now I can see the gifts too, and absolutely the intent for this Sagittarius goddess. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so her Scorpio rising and Sag Sun, she really has the sense of learning the process of mastering the feeling realm. And that's not something that's easy for Capricorn Moon, because Capricorn Moon just does what needs to be done and doesn't necessarily feel it. So this is like all new territory. So this is how she's synthesized or brought together this whole thing for her. And I, again, highly recommend people read these more, take time to just be with them and see what that's about. All right.
You can really feel the energetic shift in the way she's describing herself. That's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So, I don't know, do you want to share this one, Tammy?
I think someone wanted to say something.
Okay.
She's wow. That's a day behind me. She's got all that other. Wow.
I don't know if Millie is on. If she's on, she could share about this. If not, Tammy can share about this.
Hi there. I'm on. Yes.
Yay!
Millie's here.
Yay!
Yay, good.
Oh, yeah. This was really a wonderful portal of entry for me. I've had a difficult time and been surprised that I've not been able to really jump into the material. And Kaylin, when I saw your email the other morning, I thought, hey, I can do that. And
Yay!
it was a really meaningful experience. And I really do view this as just a portal of entry. And I'm excited about doing more. Would you like me to read this?
Yes, or yeah, however you want to share it, share away.
Sure. I'll read. I'm finding more and more that I so appreciate the influences of my Venus in Pisces, which is amplified by being in the 12th house. And I dubbed her my goddess saving grace placement, because I have Aries rising, moon in Leo, sun in Aquarius, much like Amuna, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. We have very similar charts, it sounds like. So I have a huge stellium, and includes all the inner planets and goodness, my South Node and all of that. And then there's my Piscean Venus, thank goodness, who comes along to save the day. My deep diving collective connective Venus is, and always has been, I know now, even when was consciously unaware of her presence and her presence. So indeed, my goddess saving grace, my beauty way companion, and for compassion and champion and choreographer, conductor, and really the true star in my show. And I didn't know it. I thought I was this little dynamic, fiery supposed to be a boy at my house kind of person. And thank goodness I've had this beautiful Venus and Pisces with me all this time. So it's exciting to bring that forward more, which is something I have been working on for a good many years now. In my early life, childhood, and young adult, I displayed and knew myself as robust, dynamic, athletic, outdoorsy, group leader, and successfully competitive. I don't remember what I'm sitting next.
Next one, it just should pop up now.
Yeah. Anyway, so, I reached a point mid to early 40s where I just said, hey, enough's enough. And I had some, what could be called by some outside looking in, kind of breakdown, but breakthrough kinds of things, made lots of life changes. And here I am. So I think I'll leave that as my sharing. And Kaylin and Tammy, I really appreciate you including my sunflower along with my picture, which I was embarrassed to send a picture of me, but very proud of my sunflower.
Well, hey, in some of the work I've done in the past, back in the mid-90s, I had a mentor who took me through a priestess process, and she said that the sunflower holds the matrix for the new earth. So of course I had to put it in there. Right? So that's pretty cool. And you also did something about the Rainbow Awakening. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. What I realized as I was writing this and really synthesizing these aspects is that it's a lot of fire on water. My Leo moon and my Pisces Venus. And it's, it feels like a journey of rainbow awakening, and I'm really grateful for it. And yeah, I think that's probably enough sharing. I know Metagoddess is not really so much what we're talking about right now, but my Aries Metagoddess, I find it very intriguing that there's a shift being made collectively to a Piscean Metagoddess, and that really feels like in a large collective way to mirror some of what I have in my personal chart. So there certainly is more that shall be revealed. And I love the rainbow metaphor. It's one of the reasons I moved to Maui, to be closer to the earth and the fire and the water and the rainbows. So, yeah.
I have to say, as a person who has a lot of fire on water myself, we could describe that as, being steam. But I love that I've never really put that together like that, as that steamy energy is rising up, that if the light hits it just right, it would create a rainbow.
Yeah. I like it. Let's go for rainbows. Yes. And now this exciting Gemini Metagoddess is coming up. So.
And of course the rainbow is in the air. So, and it touches, often you can see it, sometimes you can see it touching the earth on either side. So it really kind of brings in all the elements. Pretty cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I think that's the end of our, of what people shared with us. So we can take some more questions or insights or whatever from people. Xana's saying she's interested in understanding progressed Venus, and that hers changes into Capricorn this fall around 30 years in Sagittarius. So, so yeah, thank you for letting us know that, Xana. We will definitely have more conversations about creating a class on that. Yeah. So, anybody have anything they want to share? Any insights or ahas? If it's been helpful, you can chat, you can unmute yourself, you can raise your hand. We do have a few more minutes.
I will.
Yay! Hi,
Yay.
Sherry.
Hi. So those videos in the PDFs with them, the slides for this class were so awesome. Like, I learned so much from that, and I've been like studying the shamanic astrology stuff, but it made me understand like the rising, the sun, Venus, the moon, and the synthesis so much more. I was like going through the slides again today, and I was like taking photographs and like sending my sisters to her and like my best friends to her. I was like, read this is like you, so it was just so great. And I haven't had a chance to answer all the questions yet, but I did do the Venus Goddess is attending the new mystery school. I wrote a couple sentences I just want to share about mine. And I love that whole like imagery of that, of like, your Venus goddess is attending the new mystery school, which is kind of part of what that, the journey that you led us on, Tammy, during that too, with like flying on the creature over, you know, the goddess coming with you. But so I wrote, I'm Cancer Venus, and she's going to the Leo mystery school. And I wrote, the loving, nurturing mother goddess is here to engage a life path of radical, radiant self-love and creatorship, to nurture her divinity and love herself no matter what. The loving, nurturing goddess creates a safe space where her divine light and love touches others and inspires them to safely love themselves. The mother queen goddess.
Mm.
Awesome.
Love that. And I like how you did that, because I oftentimes have summed up people's like their Venus expression with their, you know, in words like that. I might have said Queen Mother, but since the mother energy is Cancer leading, I totally get that. So yeah, I love how you did that.
But I just like copied kind of the format off of one of the slides. I was like, oh, I'm going to do that. And I just started writing as I was like looking through. So, but I'm looking forward to answering the questions. I always do. It's just been, you know, there's been things going on. So
I understood.
yeah.
Whenever you get to it, it'll be perfect.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you. I mean, the whole class, everything, all the classes have been awesome, but I really, really, really loved these ones, especially.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sharon, because I went back and looked at the slides and I was like, I forgot we had done all this.
I know.
stuff. I'm like,
It's a lot.
wow, we were awesome.
Yeah. No, seriously, like all the risings, all the suns, all the, you know, all the Venus, it's like everything, not to mention all the ton of different synthesis ones that you did. It's like, wow. Yeah. So if
We
you
had
guys
a lot of
haven't
fun.
listened to the videos or, you know, listen to the audios or looked at the slides, like look at the slides at least. You're like, you were all going to like be so psyched because it'll like say what your thing is, you know, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
Love your
it.
Thanks,
enthusiasm.
Oh,
Sheridan.
thanks. No, I love it. Oh my gosh. And I love like sharing this stuff with clients and everything too. They just freak. It's like you said, Tammy, it's like the whole point of astrology is just to like validate who you are and like make it be okay, you know, which is like freaking huge, right? If
It
that's
is.
like, if that's a one thing you help do in the world, you've like made a significant difference of like, hey, just be yourself. It's good for you to be yourself, you know? So,
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
So true. And I think too, what I feel so much with this class in particular, the Venus Signature series, and maybe especially by the time we get to the later phases and we're doing the synthesis, I just feel, and what I love is the words, like when I'm reading, and Kaylin, when you're reading, and we're just seeing the ways that people are articulating these different layers, you feel it come alive inside of you. And it's like she just starts to wake up in you, and there's just these lights that come on, and it's just a joyfulness at recognizing yourself, you know, in that. And it's just like rising up into it more. And I remember when Kaylin and I were first talking about doing this class, and that's what came through. It was like, I just remember that, Kaylin, because we were like, and you were so fun. Like, it was so fun because it's like, we were supposed to be writing our book and we didn't. Instead, we started talking about all this stuff, and it was so mesmerizing. And we were talking about morning. I was, you know, learning. I knew I was morning star, right? Big deal. It didn't mean anything. And then as we started to dive into it, when it started coming alive inside of me, it's like, wow, that's, and it was dignifying my journey, and it was making it sacred, you know, really making it sacred. So it's really fun to hear you, Sheridan, say that, and everyone else here who has done this work to just, and like you said, who was it that was so busy, but they just took a few minutes to write it out? That's all it takes, really. It's a good remembrance.
Right, because sometimes we can get stuck in our Saturnness of how we need it to be a certain way. Like, and it has to be brilliant, and it has to be exact, and it has to be right. And honestly, we can write it one way now, and we might write it a completely different way a few months from now or a few years from now, because we have a different perspective, a different you know, experience that we're bringing into it, and it's not like it's set in stone. It's just written on paper, and it's an intention, and then we can grow and evolve with that intention of what it is that is our true Venus signature. So fun.
Yeah.
So is there anybody else? We got a couple more minutes, 5 more minutes, or we can end.
I just want to say something.
Yes.
Yes.
I really am enjoying the synthesis, and I totally like just listening to and reading about the moon and Venus, and my moon's in Gemini, my Venus is in Scorpio with the Scorpio overtone. Okay. Just Scorpio. And reading about all the things you said about the different signs and how they can be, I mean, I knew obviously they were different elements and different modes, but all those other things you said, like the horizontal and the free radicals and the actionary and not actionary, everything. And I looked at every one of these and I'm like, Gemini and Scorpio are different on every single one. I'm like, no wonder this is tricky. That just felt very validating, you know, it felt very validating. And of course, you know, my goddess is going to the Leo school because I have Leo rising. And so it's like, okay, I get to love myself with all that trickiness of trying to put these inconjunct things together. And yeah, it feels very validating, and I'm really enjoying it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, that's right. You know, it's like when I started looking through that, I was like, I'd forgotten some of the things we had done, because we literally had that live class first in 2016. That's 4 years later. So, you know, it's like we put all that content together, and then I was like, we were good. We really covered a lot. The involution and the evolution and the horizontal and the vertical and all of that. So good. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed that. So Deborah is saying, if we didn't do the synthesis yet, would it be good to share in the Facebook group? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So anybody else want to share anything before we wrap this up?
And it's okay if you haven't done a lot up to now. If anything's come to you over the course of the conversation, just knowing anything about your moon and your Venus or your ascendant, it's fine if you haven't done any synthesis yet.
I just want to send you all a blessing. You are so wonderful, and I'm so happy you're doing this together, and I look forward to joining more intensely another time. But just lots and lots and lots of blessing at this beautiful, beautiful group and the work that we do in a troubled world that hopefully will move forward in a good way. There's wisdom here, so blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. Blessings to you.
Thank you, Ramona.
Yeah. I have to say that one of the things I've been preparing for as this is called the Global Goddess Gathering. Is going to happen in Atlanta. It was supposed to happen. I was actually supposed to just have gotten back from it. And because of everything changing, it got postponed till July. Hopefully it'll happen. But the woman that started the whole priestess process that is behind this gathering, right, that is happening, who passed in 2008, the last thing she had me do before she passed was to create a document that is part of the content that we use in this in the Venus alchemy work, so that people could have a better sense of the Venus cycle. She thought it was so important. And I feel like she really planted a seed then that has helped to grow and blossom to now. And I'm really grateful, because I don't know, I mean, I knew it was important, but I don't know that I would have been as inspired to work it as much as I have without her nudging me to do that, if that makes sense. So I just want to honor her. Her name was Nicole Christine, and she was the one who created the Awakening the Priestess Within process, and it totally changed my life to be involved with that and to do that work, and then to bring that work into this work. So good. it's interesting when we're paying attention and aligning with the magic and following the threads, how the magic weaves itself, and we really just show up and be a part of it. Because really, that's how Tammy and I kind of got into this, was other magical events that just, we thought we were going to do one thing and it turned into this. So good.
Yeah.
So much better than what we thought we were going to do.
Yeah.
It's also,
We've always followed what feels alive in it.
and it's so evident that we can't do things by ourselves. So it's the chemistry between the two of you that really make this group and all of the work that's gone into it. It's just, I'm just noticing that more and more, that it just, we can't do things a lot by ourselves. We need other people. And, I'm just feeling that way really strongly right now.
What a great insight when we're in the Libra Meta Goddess over.
Yeah, at the very ending of it, it's a really potent.
Exactly.
I would like to share, I didn't get a chance to write out completely my synthesis. I kind of did a little different exercise with it, but I don't know, I'm coming into, I think I'm right about this, Kaylin, but so I turned 56 this fall, but so my moon is in Gemini, my Venus is in Libra, and so I will start my Venus return, right, when we move into Gemini, but I feel, I don't know, this work has been just incredibly exciting and validating, and I feel like everything is just kind of colliding at once. My ascendant is in Capricorn, so we just had all the planets, in Capricorn. Like I feel like the universe is literally kicking me in the ass at this point, and it's all coming at me at once, but it's so invigorating. And one of the things as I was writing this, like I really get my Gemini moon. Like I can see that as a small child, like just how playful and magical everything was. And then I ended up, my childhood was really rough as I got older. And it took me a while to kind of come back into that, that magical Gemini place, but I was always spiritual. And the Venus in Libra totally rings true, because my wounds were around, this was interesting when you were talking about the Chiron piece. My Chiron is square my moon in Gemini. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but my wounds were around my dad. My dad was a really abusive man, and particularly patriarchal, so very abusive to my mother. And by the time I started to develop, he was equally, like, he literally viewed women as whores or virgins. And so he started to abuse me that way as I got older. My dad's sun sign was Pisces, and my Chiron is in Pisces, which is very fascinating to me. And then my moon is in Gemini in the fourth house, which is Cancer and family. Does that have any significance, those two things together, or?
Well, the moon in the fourth house, so wherever the moon shows up is where it's meant to express in the current life. So definitely in the realm of family, when it's in the fourth house. And so you get to use your skill set. Ideally, right. This is what we say, you get to use your skill set in that arena.
Yeah.
And the Gemini moon, the more playful, the less serious, the more creative, childlike, fun and playfulness would ideally be able to express in family. But with Chiron involved, probably a lot less likely for that to happen, because that's where the wound is going to be, right? It's going to be in the family. Right. Playful, being that playful Gemini expression. And so you don't get to express that in your family.
Right. It's come back for me as I've done my healing work, so as I've gotten older, I've been able to embrace that piece. And certainly the other piece that really stands out for me is the Capricorn piece. Because of the Venus in Libra, like I'm all about co-equal partnerships. So I kissed a lot of frogs and divorced one guy, right? until I found my Peter. And he's really my soulmate. And he was actually the biggest, when my Chiron return happened, that's where my healing happened around men. But really, I've always like demanded, like I would just move on. Like if I can't have co-equal, like, and then also the way that shows up in my life is I became a social worker because it really, really embraces those values. So when I start to think about my ascendant, my Capricorn, and the hierarchical nature of it and structure, I actually rebel. I like the Gemini piece is stronger for me, like that free electron. I rebel against structure, and I certainly rebel at the systems that are currently in the world. So I get that moving, into this new age. The way I view Capricorn would be totally, from the community and equanimity, creating community all on an equal level. So that resonates. But the other thing that came to me, I think that what I'm moving into now, like being in a mystery school, this mystery school and another one, is embracing that magical aspect of everything. And the way that I will move forward to work in any way will be with astrology versus I tried to work in the system as a clinical social worker and it never fit. And it burned my body out. It did my back in, So it's interesting how the Capricorn piece I kind of struggle with to, that mystery school is tough for me. It's been tough in the learning so far. And so I guess I look forward to embracing it in a different way, I think, and working in a different way. But yeah, that would be, yeah. Well, thank you.
Lori, I just want to say quickly, as a Gemini moon woman with Saturn right on top of my moon and a lot of Capricorn, I think that when you're working with Capricorn, a lot of times you have to wrestle with Capricorn. You really have to wrestle with it a lot and kind of almost do battle. And that sounds like a weird way to describe it, but it's the old version that you're doing battle with. And it can be really, really confusing and challenging to know. I get it around, Kaylin knows this very well. I also get it around the rebelling against structure, and it will come back and bite you in the ass that you do that. And it is just, it's really intense sometimes to know how to step into the Capricorn in a way that feels good and also honor the Gemini.
Right. Like I can use some more structure because I am that free electron more so. Like I just want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. But in order to get anything done, I do need some structures.
Yeah, you do. It's like, I think it's like that little kid that like is wildly like flailing and you have to like hold them.
Yeah, that's right.
With the Capricorn, or they don't feel safe. It's that Gemini little inner child. That's what I'm coming to. I mean, it's taking a while. Yeah. But what does it take to maybe to adult for that Gemini self so that she can actually feel more free to play in a healthy way?
Right.
I don't know. What do you think, Kaylin?
Well, I also feel that the Gemini piece is helping Capricorn to be freer in its structure. It's been so long down in such a patriarchal construct. And I know maybe not patriarchy isn't the best word, whatever our current cultural construct has been for the last 2,000 to 5,000 years. we're in that process of changing that up. And of course we have to rebel against that structure. And Gemini and Aquarius, and there's other signs that are going to rebel against that. But then how do we bring in the wisdom of the new structure that allows for the greater freedom to also be there so that Gemini can be happy, Aquarius can be happy, everybody can be happy, because ultimately that's what Capricorn would want.
Yeah. I get that piece. I can embrace that. Yeah, that feels right to me. Parts of it I struggle with, but absolutely. Thank you.
Well, we're just learning how to do it. We don't know how to do it. We don't have any models, so we're trying to figure that out. And so that's our challenge.
Right.
Yeah.
And so those of us who have lots of Saturn and Capricorn are going to be in that, as Tammy said, battle, or battle, or just deconstruction.
It's a deconstruction.
That's my Aries ascendant.
It's a warrior.
Structures so we can create the space for the new ones to come in.
Right.
And then to have more freedom within that, and to have more play and more joy and more fun, because Capricorn is not necessarily heavy and serious. Yeah. It just winds up acting that way because that's what we've had for such a long time.
That makes more sense to me. Right.
Yeah.
That's where I can put it on. I can't put it on in the old paradigm like I
No.
know.
No.
I was just sharing this in a session with someone today who had a lot of Capricorn moon, is that when I was first getting into this work back in the 90s, and I was watching the movie Fantasia with my kids. And in the movie, in Fantasia, there's a section where the nature fairies are changing the seasons to, you know, grand music, right? And they come in and they come flying in, they come sweeping in, they come skating in, you know, if it's on the ice and creating snowflakes and snow, you know, ice things or whatever, or they're changing the colors of the leaves, or they're creating things to bloom, whatever they're doing, there is so much joy in it that they're doing their work. And to me, I was like, oh, this is what Capricorn's supposed to be.
Right.
And I had that realization way back then, and I'm like, that's the new Capricorn. That's not what Capricorn, the way we think of Capricorn, not what Capricorn is supposed to be. So.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. That was really helpful just to talk it out.
Yeah.
My Gemini. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're at our time. So, you know, you can post
To
it.
unmute everyone.
And yeah, and we'll say goodbye.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, put yourselves on gallery view if you haven't already. You can see everybody.
Yep.
Bye. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Next one.
In August.
Blessings. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.